The morning is not just the beginning of the day, it is the birthplace of destiny. The world awakens in silence, and in that silence, you are presented with the raw materials from which greatness is forged. Every empire that rose, every fortune that was built, every dream that broke free from the chains of mediocrity began with a single morning where the mind was claimed instead of wasted. If you want to transform your life, do not wait for the world to change its conditions. Do not wait for fate to knock on your door. Begin where every titan of history began, inside your own mind, at the dawn of your own day. There is a law older than kings, deeper than oceans, unbreakable as gravity. You become what you think about most of the time. Napoleon Hill devoted his life to that truth. He saw that success does not bow to accidents, nor does it kneel before luck. Success is summoned, magnetized, and sculpted by thought made deliberate. And so your morning is not just coffee, not just routines, not just minutes dripping into hours. It is the forge of your imagination, the workshop of your faith, the first battlefield of your discipline. If you rise without purpose, the world will hand you distractions. But if you rise with vision, the world itself begins to bend in your favor. Think of the giants of history. Thomas Edison, rising before dawn, scribbling ideas by candlelight that would one day electrify the world. Benjamin Franklin, beginning each morning with the piercing question, "What good shall I do today?" Napoleon Bonaparte, standing before maps at sunrise, already conquering nations in his mind before his armies took a single step. Each of them understood the day does not belong to those who sleepwalk through it. It belongs to those who seize the morning with intent. So let us begin where all transformation begins, with the mind. Your mind is the soil, and belief is the seed. If you plant doubt, you will reap hesitation. If you plant fear, you will harvest regret. But if you plant faith, faith in yourself, faith in your vision, faith in the law of growth, you will reap an abundant harvest of opportunity. Do not underestimate the violence of doubt. Doubt whispers like a friend, but strangles like an enemy. It convinces you to wait for better conditions, but better conditions never arrive. The only condition that matters is the one you create by choosing belief over fear. Hill wrote, "Whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve." These are not words for motivation, but a formula for creation. Conceive, see it clearly in your mind. Believe, accept it as already yours. Achieve, walk the path with certainty until it manifests. Every morning ask yourself, what am I planting today? Is it hesitation or is it faith? Because life does not give you what you beg for. It gives you what you expect. Clarity is the sword that cuts through confusion. A man without clarity is like a ship drifting without sails, moved by the winds of others, lost in the storms of circumstance. But clarity sharpens your mind until every distraction shatters against it. The reason most people live average lives is not because greatness is denied to them. It is because they never take the time to ask, what do I truly want? They live according to the scripts of others, family, society, culture, until their true desires are buried beneath noise. Each morning, you must carve silence into your life and ask yourself, what am I building? What is the vision that pulls me forward? If your mind cannot see it, your hands cannot create it. Think of Andrew Carnegie, the man Napoleon Hill studied for 2 decades. Carnegie was not born wealthy, not born privileged. He was a poor immigrant boy in a steel mill, sweating 12 hours a day, but he had a vision so clear it burned through poverty. He saw steel not as metal, but as the skeleton of modern civilization. That clarity led him from dusty factory floors to the throne of industry, becoming one of the wealthiest men in history. Clarity is not a luxury, it is the foundation. Vision without purpose is fragile. Purpose is the fire that sustains you when the vision feels distant. It is the reason you rise when life strikes you down. Without purpose, success becomes hollow. With purpose, even struggle becomes sacred. Purpose is not always discovered in one moment. For some, it arrives like lightning, shaking the soul. For others, it is carved slowly, through trials, through failures, through listening to the whisper inside that says, "This is what I was made for." Do not underestimate the power of a man with purpose. Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon because he knew Rome was his destiny. Martin Luther King Jr. stood on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial and declared, "I have a dream," because he lived not for himself, but for generations unborn. Your purpose may not be to rule nations or change laws. It may be to create, to build, to uplift, to teach, to serve. But when you find it, guard it. Let it be the compass of your mornings, the anchor of your nights. Discipline is the bridge between your vision and your reality. It is the proof that your desire is more than a wish. Wishing requires no sacrifice. Discipline requires the death of comfort. Every morning, discipline asks you, will you serve your goals or your moods? Will you obey your vision or your excuses? Most people lose the battle here. They want greatness, but they obey laziness. They want wealth, but they surrender to distraction. They want transformation, but they flee from discomfort. And so their lives reflect not their dreams, but their weaknesses. Discipline is the steel of character. It is forged by doing what must be done, especially when it is least convenient. Think of the samurai who rose before dawn to train with blades, not because it was easy, but because it was demanded by their code. Think of the monks who mastered silence not because the world was quiet, but because they chose stillness as their weapon. If you want to cross from average to fortune, you must build the bridge of discipline with the stones of daily action. Action is the lifeblood of success. Without it, dreams rot into regret. The world does not reward intention, it rewards execution. Napoleon Hill interviewed hundreds of the most powerful men of his time, from Henry Ford to Thomas Edison, from Rockefeller to Roosevelt, and in every single one he found this law: they acted before they were ready. Ford did not wait until he had all the answers to build the assembly line. He moved, and the answers revealed themselves in motion. Edison did not wait until his invention was guaranteed to succeed. He acted and failed 10,000 times until the light bulb conquered the night. The lesson is simple. Do not wait for perfect conditions. Perfect conditions are a myth created by procrastinators. The soil of opportunity is always rough, always uncertain, always incomplete. But those who act, refine, and adapt in motion, those are the ones who conquer. Action is the signal you send to the universe that you are serious. It is the proof that your belief is alive. Without action, your faith is dead. Gratitude is the magnet of abundance. It is not merely saying thank you. It is a force that alters the vibration of your mind. When you rise in the morning and set your thoughts first upon what you already possess, the breath in your lungs, the strength in your body, the opportunities still before you, you are tuning your mind to receive more. Consider this: a mind that complains repels fortune. It dwells in lack. It multiplies scarcity. It convinces itself that nothing is enough. But a mind of gratitude expands. It takes the smallest blessing and multiplies it until opportunity appears where others see emptiness. The wealthiest men in history were not always born rich, but they were born or reborn into gratitude. Rockefeller, even at the height of his empire, walked among his workers, thanking them, noting their contributions. Why? Because he knew gratitude is the seed that makes men loyal, opportunities fertile, and visions unstoppable. Every morning before you rush into the battles of the day, pause. Count the treasures you already have. The more you train your mind to see abundance, the less room it has for fear, for doubt, for despair. Gratitude is not weakness. It is the strongest state of mind because it aligns you with the truth. You already stand in a universe overflowing with possibility. Adaptability is the silent weapon of all who endure. The man who refuses to adapt is the man who will be buried by change. The law of life is not comfort. It is evolution. Empires rise and collapse because they cling to yesterday. Men stagnate because they fear tomorrow. But those who bend without breaking, those who pivot without surrendering their vision, these are the ones who survive every storm. Charles Darwin never said the strongest survive. What he observed was that the most adaptable do. You must become like water, flowing, reshaping, finding pathways where rigid minds see only walls. Look at the business titans of our own age. The world shifted from steel to silicon, from factories to data, from railroads to algorithms. Those who adapted to new industries rose as kings of the digital age. Those who clung to the past faded into obscurity. Your mornings must not only prepare you to act, but to adapt, to look at what is changing around you and say, I will bend with it, and I will use it to my advantage. The oak tree that stands stiff against the storm is torn from its roots, but the reed that bends survives and rises again when the storm is past. Resilience is the fire that burns when everything else has turned to ash. It is not merely recovering, it is returning stronger, sharper, unbreakable. You will be tested. No vision worth living for comes without resistance. You will be rejected, mocked, underestimated, betrayed. There will be days when failure feels permanent, when the mountain looks too high, when your heart whispers that it is easier to surrender. But resilience says, get up, again and again and again. Thomas Edison was asked how he endured thousands of failures. His reply, I did not fail 10,000 times. I found 10,000 ways that did not work. That is resilience, seeing setbacks not as tombstones, but as stepping stones. Look at Nelson Mandela, imprisoned for 27 years. They tried to break his body, his spirit, his will, yet when he walked free, he was not broken. He was unshakable, destined to lead his nation into a new dawn. That is resilience. Resilience is not about avoiding pain. It is about transmuting pain into power. Every scar, every wound, every setback becomes a resource if you choose to see it as such. When the world knocks you down, resilience whispers, you are not finished, you are forged. Learning is the infinite fountain of power. The day you stop learning is the day you stop growing, and the day you stop growing is the day you begin to decay. Every morning you must commit not only to action, but to expansion, to feeding your mind with ideas, with wisdom, with knowledge that sharpens your edge. Napoleon Hill spent 20 years studying the greatest men of his age. He interviewed, he observed, he documented, he absorbed, and from this endless hunger for knowledge, he distilled principles that continue to build empires a century later. Do you think Warren Buffett reads for hours each day because he is bored? Number. He reads because knowledge compounds like interest. It sharpens judgment, illuminates opportunities, and protects against deception. The man who refuses to learn is a slave to those who do. The man who commits to learning is free, armed, invincible in a world that never stops evolving. So ask yourself every morning, what will I learn today that expands my capacity, sharpens my vision, and strengthens my path? Do not merely live. Educate yourself into greatness. And now, as the sun rises higher, there is one final truth. A truth that stands above all the others, the climax of every philosophy, the heartbeat of every legend. Your life changes the moment you decide it must. Not tomorrow, not next year, not when the conditions are better. Now, in this moment. The law of attraction, the law of success, the law of achievement, all bend to this single decision. When you awaken each morning and declare with unshakable certainty, I will no longer live as a prisoner of mediocrity. I will no longer surrender to fear. I will no longer betray my vision. From that moment, the universe begins to rearrange itself in your favor. The people you need will appear. The opportunities you crave will surface. The strength you thought you lacked will pour into your bones, but only if you decide. History does not remember the hesitant. It does not celebrate the almost successful. It does not glorify the timid. It remembers those who rose each morning with a burning purpose, who disciplined themselves into action, who adapted, who endured, who learned, who gave thanks even in struggle, and who decided, once and for all, to become unstoppable. This is your morning. This is your life. This is your Rubicon. Cross it. Burn the ships behind you. Refuse to return to the land of excuses. Let today be the day you awaken with vision, with discipline, with gratitude, with resilience, with faith so strong it bends the very laws of reality. Do this every morning, and your life will not simply improve. It will transform into a masterpiece carved from the infinite potential within you. Rise, for fortune favors the awakened.